Just like Kyiv is impossible without Podil, it's hard to imagine Podil without the Kyiv Metro system. For example, getting here from the city center or from the residential outskirts is easier and faster by the metro, since ground transportation is too dependent on the situation on the main roads. And the streets here are mostly narrow, which is how it developed historically. They are not designed for the dense traffic of a metropolis. It might even seem that it is a kind of a protest against the big city advancing in all aspects. Disputes are still going on about when exactly people first settled on the Podil district in Kyiv, but it is a fact that it happened long before the advent of Christianity. References in ancient chronicles, like the tale of Ihor's campaign, for example, confirm this theory. Historians have collected a considerable amount of evidence about the active life of Podil as the main commercial center of Kyiv, in terms of the trade of crafts, with its districts Honchary, Kozhumyaki, and Dekhtary during the times of Kievan Rus. And the streets of Podil, Borisoglebska, Pokrovska, Ihorevska, Olhinska, Shikavitska, and Voloska were given these names for a reason. A lot of time has passed since the estuary of the Pochina River had been a harbor for the people of Kyiv, and the ancient Slavutich, today Dnipro, was the main trade route from the Varangians to the Greeks. The modern history of Podil is being written by our contemporaries, and the construction of the metro lines occupies a separate page. Design development began in the early 1960s, and construction began in the early 1970s. It was initially planned that the first line of the metro would be built from Kontraktova Ploshcha, which was called Red Square back then, to Horyhuvatska Ploshcha, where the present-day Holosivska metro station is located. In other words, this meant that it would be built primarily in the southern direction from the city center. In the future, it was planned to develop it to the north, in the direction of Kuronivka instead of Obolon. Podil is still called the Lower City. Translated from Old Slavonic, the term Podil means lowland. Indeed, it is located much lower than the central part of Kyiv, at the foot of the hills rising up from the Dnipro River. It was in Podil that Kyiv was reborn after the invasion of the Han Batu's Golden Horde, when the upper city was destroyed. Then Podil became the business and trade center of the ancient city for many years to come. It even had its own line of fortifications. One of them was Vali, which was built along the river Hlibochitsa. In the present day, Hlibochitsa is hidden in an underground collector under the lower and upper Vali. The configuration of quaint streets has also changed over many years. Old templates were rebuilt, and Podil became a bona fide district with a capital letter, where the spirit of the old city lives on to this day. The construction of the metro during the 1970s entailed the shallow laying of the metro line itself, which had already revealed the colossal archaeological layer that covers the entire surface of the old Podil and, of course, the upper city of Kyiv. But in the Podil district of Kyiv, this layer is massive. It is 10 to 12 meters deep. Basically, the space where we are standing on now is at the core of this layer that dates back to the era between the 11th and 15th centuries. Just imagine that we're standing with our own feet on this historical site that existed in this ancient period from the times of Kievan Rus. It's absolutely amazing. The Poshtova Ploshcha station is located along Sahaidachnoho Street, next to the eponymous square, the lower funicular station, and the river port on the Dnipro. It is a shallow column station with a 101-meter-long central hall. It is one of the first 3 stations of the Blue Line of the Kyiv Metro that were opened in Kyiv on December 17, 1976. Initially, the station project was named River Station, so its entire decoration theme is dedicated to the Dnipro River. The exterior image of Poshtova Ploshcha was designed by architects and artists. Its columns are lined with white Koelga marble from the Urals with vertical inserts of ultramarine majolic tiles. The floors of the station are covered with grey granite. At the end of the station's hall, there is a stained glass decorative window. It is lit from behind, and it depicts the Dnipro River with panoramas of its banks. The authorship of the panel belongs to Kyiv artist Irina Levitska and deserves to be called a genuine and original decoration of the station. Today, these track walls are lined with beige and ultramarine ceramic tiles. They echo organically with the majolica inserts in the columns of the station. On the doors of the track wall, the copper compositions called "The Road from the Dnipro to the Princess City" depict the theme of ancient Kiev. It is a kind of link to the old city that once stood where Podil is situated today, and the archaeological finds that were discovered during the construction of the Kyiv Metro system. There is a unique monument here. It is the medieval quarter that served the Kyiv harbor. This was the district where, in essence, the Kyiv customs authorities were located. Moreover, a whole medieval archive is open for visitation by the public. It is a collection of seals and seal impressions. In addition to that, a large collection of artifacts that demonstrate the numerous connections of Kyiv and Ukraine with many countries has been discovered. A unique legendary street that connected the upper city with the river bank, specifically the coastal district, so this street had been legendary for a long period of time. It has materialized. It was paved with ancient brick known as plinth, which was mainly used in the construction of churches during the times of Kievan Rus. The legendary Borichev descent went down starting from the Kyiv harbor. This particular road was used to transport the goods brought to the glorious city of Kyiv by overseas merchants to the upper city. A cobblestone street rose up where the funicular runs today and stretched to the square on which the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine is located today. This is symbolic, since the evidence of diplomatic relations of Kievan Rus since the time of Princess Olha were connected with this place in particular. Its modern-day name, Poshtova Ploshcha, appeared in the first half of the 18th century. According to the descriptions of historians, it was always crowded and noisy. At the Poshtova Ploshcha station, they sorted letters and received telegrams, and post workers replaced their horses. The building itself was made of bricks, which is why it survived to this day, even though it was damaged during the last reconstruction of the square. In the 19th century, the townspeople called it Rizdvyana Ploshcha because the Church of the Nativity of Christ stood there. The temple was destroyed in the 1930s and restored in the early 2000s. By the way, Poshtova Ploshcha is the narrowest of the underground stations of the Kyiv Metro system. The width of the platform is only 8 meters. Again, this is due to the narrowness of Sahaidachnoho Street. Its width did not allow building a station of standard width and size. In addition, to further manage this limited space, the foundation pit fence that was installed during the construction of Poshtova Ploshcha is also a wall of the station itself. These two things or sections of the station are usually separated. The constructors build a pit fence, which is a wall in the ground, and then build the station itself inside of this fence. Waterproofing is laid between them, and then it's all filled in from above. But in this particular case, these two architectural elements were brilliantly and practically combined. The construction of the Blue Metro line was carried out simultaneously with the reconstruction of the entire Podil district in those years. When laying the track, they demolished some of the buildings on Sahaidachnoho Street, which was called Zhdanovo Street at the time. They removed tram tracks and trees from the street. New stations appeared on the map of the metro. The face of Podil changed, and its heart started beating to the sounds of the wheels of subway trains. Poshtova Ploshcha station changed its appearance in 2013. Back then, the changes affected the blue tiles on the track walls. Kyiv citizens still remember when the walls of the station looked like one big patch because the old tiles often fell off and were replaced with those of similar color, or they were painted over with blue paint. A year earlier, the station's lighting became different. Prior to that, original transverse line-shaped plafonds, made of plexiglass with lining of cast aluminum rings, hung in the central hall. They created a continuous light surface and in some way resembled the waves of the Dnipro River. But their plastic sheathing was recognized as a fire hazard and was very soon replaced with standard modern light fixtures. The lamps on the stairs that lead from the vestibule to the platform still to this day remind one of the river theme of Poshtova Ploshcha. They're round just like the portals of a ship, and the design of the vestibule itself has been preserved almost in its original form. There are carved images on the upper part of the wall. These 6 swallows have been living in the lobby for over 40 years, since the very opening of the station. They were carved in marble according to the sketches of Kyiv artist Levitska. It is as if they are meeting ships that have returned from a long voyage to the ancient harbor of the city of Kyiv. We call this place the River Gate of Kyiv. It is an entry point into a space, a large city, a metropolis, which Kyiv has been for a very long period of time from the Middle Ages. This was the very same place from which many people were sent off on long journeys. It was from here that Grigory Skovoroda and the brother of the famous architect Grigorovich Barsky sailed. The latter was one of the travelers that sailed and reached the distant lands of Tibet in the Himalayas. In addition to that, just imagine these gentlemen went on these journeys way back in the 18th century. Many centuries ago, just like today, life was thriving in Podil. The river gates of the city were open to merchants and travelers. People were settling along the banks of the Dnipro River. Despite the wars and fires, the evidence of these events has survived to this day. But the land of Kyiv still holds many other secrets unknown to the average resident. So the keys to the solution of the thousand-year mystery of not just Podil, but the whole Ruthenian Ukraine seem to have been found right here on Poshtova Ploshcha. More precisely, they lay under the concrete slabs of the renewed district at a depth of just 5 to 6 meters next to the subway tunnels and a new road junction. The construction pit for the next shopping mall, started in 2015, became a place of research of unique archaeological finds. In addition to ancient artifacts, one of the central streets of ancient Kyiv of the 11th century, which is 4 meters wide, was excavated here. It led from the Dnipro to Untitled Ploshcha. There had already been a customs office here in those days. Its territory discovered by archaeologists was 1,300 square meters, and finds such as lead seals and coins of different countries confirmed that there had already been a full-fledged port here 800 years ago. Indeed, historical facts prove that there were large estates, craft workshops, and residential areas in this small riverside district of Kyiv, and different ships entered this harbor. The museum on Poshtova Ploshcha hardly resembles a museum in the modern sense of the term. There are no display cases or tour guides. Actually, there are no viewing platforms either. But there is the most important thing: the understanding of the uniqueness of what is happening and the value of these finds for the entire society and for the self-identification of a developed cultural nation. We really want to open a modern museum here to take advantage of this wonderful archaeological monument. This monument is unique. After all, it is a great opportunity for us to have a place that is not just an attraction, but which is also full of meaning. That is, it would simply be a museum with traditional display cases, but a modern museum that could be a scientific, cultural and creative hub that would show the history of the capital of Ukraine, the way it really was in the past. The underground space under Poshtova Ploshcha is called the New Pompeii because of the significance of the surviving and buried underground evidence of the life of a huge city. It is quite possible that the continuation of the excavations will give an answer to the question of where the Kievan Rus was baptized, and there are preconditions to claim that it was not far from the present-day Poshtova Ploshcha. The doors are closing. The next station